Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 19th edition of Chamber Talk with Torrie. I am excited to have today with me Kaylee and Paul from AWS. We are going to have a great podcast discussion today. This podcast is sponsored by and hosted by the Bourbon Chamber of Commerce, and we look forward to having a deeper conversation. So on that, welcome, guys. Thanks for coming today, and let's dive right into these questions today. We have a lot to talk about today. We have a lot of different things to talk about. We have two different areas of AWS here today, so we get to learn a little bit more about it. Let's just start with Kaylee. How'd you get into AWS, and what's that career journey look like for you?
Yeah, thanks so much, Torrie, for having us here today. Kaylee Davis, I'm on the economic development team. I joined AWS about 2 years ago now, and grew up down the road in Eastern Oregon, in Athena, small town down the road.
Yep.
And so since that time, have had an opportunity to work with Paul and our communities here in Morrow County, just to continue working on opportunities for partnership and collaboration, and it's been a great 2 years.
Yes. I have to say, we're sitting in a room that you actually brought to, and when your previous employment here at the Sage Center in the Port of Morrow, we're sitting in a room that actually were the driving force behind it. So I think it's kind of ironic that here we are, we're sitting behind the branding that you were part of. So it's kind of exciting to see you transition to the new position you're in.
Yeah, thanks, Torrie. It was a fun project. Loved getting to work with all of our partners here in the community, and nothing better than seeing Morrow County School District kids come through and be able to learn about STEAM initiatives here. So
100%. Perfect. And Paul, what was your journey look like?
So my name is Paul Butler. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for AWS and Communities. So I support the community engagement activities in Eastern Oregon, whether it's things like the Think Big Space, which we're in today, or Girls Tech Series, which are the interactive one-day STEAM education days with the school districts in Eastern Oregon. And then I also support our donation work in the community. So working with food banks or with the school districts or with other nonprofits, which we're excited to talk about today. But before I was with AWS, I've been with the team about a year, but I've been with Amazon for about 4 years. I've always done community engagement at a hyperlocal level. Before this, I supported Primary Community Engagement, which is the drone program that Amazon has.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So just kind of transition to a new spot. Wonderful. So we always hear the word Amazon and AWS. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's something that we get very often, so I'm happy to explain. So Amazon, which is kind of what we call the .com side, that's the Amazon that we all love and is incredibly convenient, where you can go on and order that item that you need or maybe don't need and have it delivered to your front door by our delivery drivers. That has been going on for quite some time. And through the process of building out Amazon and all of the services that we offer to our customers, we realized that we were spending a lot of time and energy and resources on our own data storage and services. And so in the spring of 2006, Amazon Web Services was born because we recognized that we needed a service and an organization that could serve not only the needs of the company, but also other customers. And so Amazon Web Services is a cloud computing company, and we provide over 200 services to our customers related to data storage, data integrity.
Thank you for that. So Kaylee, AWS has been operating data centers in Eastern Oregon since 2011, which is hard to believe it's since been 2011. I wouldn't have thought that far back. What are some of the ways AWS has engaged in the community during its time here?
So we are thrilled to be part of the Eastern Oregon community now since 2011, as you shared. And from an economic impact perspective, AWS is the largest taxpayer in Morrow County. Just last year in 2023 alone, contributing more than $33 million between property taxes and fees. But in addition to our economic financial contributions, we're also really proud of the work that Paul and I get to do with communities here in Morrow County. And so a couple of my favorite examples, one, you're not going to be surprised, is workforce development. So this last spring, we held a workshop that was really focused on making sure our education and workforce development partners knew about not just the great jobs that AWS has, but also all of the vendors and suppliers that provide great job opportunities that help support data centers being built.
Yep.
And so we were excited to have that workshop, be able to share more about how you pursue those career paths, And then a specific example that I'm really excited about, and something I think AWS does really well, is no matter where you're at in your education or career, there's career paths available. And so I've met multiple Morrow County residents who have gone through one of our entry-level training programs, and then we partner with Blue Mountain Community College. So if they're interested in continuing their education, they have an opportunity to have that paid for. They can do it here locally with our community college, and then it sets them up so that they're prepared for promotion opportunities. And so that's one example. Paul talked a little bit about STEAM education and initiatives that we focus on across Morrow County with Morrow County schools. And then I know Paul's going to talk a little bit more about this, but we just have a phenomenal number of AWS employee volunteers and ambassadors who are out working, volunteering in their community for initiatives that are important to them. And so I know Paul's going to talk a little bit more about those, but that's one of my favorite things to see the AWS ambassadors out giving back to their community.
Yeah, we appreciate them here at the Chamber and the Stage Center. We use them for multiple different events. They come in and they help us run the pumpkin painting at Harvest Festival. It's just great to see them engage and participate and give back to our community like the way they do, even just in that non-monetary way. So we appreciate all that. So in January, AWS announced the Community Solar Initiative with Grid Alternatives. What is that program and why is it important to a priority to AWS? We talked about it briefly. I think this is a great program.
Yeah, so back in January and February, we started having conversations with a lot of our local nonprofits as we were planning for the year, and we had heard resoundingly from a lot of them that they had seen an increase in need and an increase in their overhead costs. And so obviously AWS and Amazon are incredibly committed to what we call the Climate Pledge, which is our main sustainability initiative. And as we thought about ways in which we could support our nonprofit partners outside of the work that we already do around providing funding and volunteer hours, which Kaylee just mentioned, we reached out to an organization called Grid Alternatives, which is the leading international nonprofit focused on providing free community solar to nonprofit organizations and communities in need. And so AWS provided a $1.2 million grant to Grid Alternatives, which will help construct 10 community solar panels on nonprofits around Eastern Oregon. We're currently working with Grid Alternatives and local nonprofits to solidify those 10 sites. And so in the next few weeks, we'll be able to release those sites and talk a little bit more about what they're going to look like. But we're incredibly proud and excited about this initiative because it's another way that AWS can lend a tool from our toolkit to be able to support community members and organizations in need.
Wonderful. That's great. I think it's just I love those kind of projects and watching that happen. So I'm looking forward to seeing actually one come through and see the results of it and the impact it's having for those nonprofits.
We are too.
Yeah, wonderful. Kaylee, AWS and Communities Fund just announced an application for a round of funding. What is that application? What is that funding? Tell me more about this.
We're really excited. This is our third year of having the AWS and Communities Community Fund that is available through ChangeX. And so this is really set up to help support nonprofits or individuals and organizations to either start a project or expand a project and work that they're doing. And so one of the things that we realized is there's individuals and organizations that have fantastic ideas, but they don't have the funding to get started or expand the good work that they're already doing in the community. And so this community fund was set up so that nonprofits are eligible for up to $10,000 and other individuals or organizations can receive up to $6,000. And so the application just opened July 1. It's open through August 15th. And so we did change the program a little bit this year, so wanted to share a little bit about that. We actually added $50,000 to the fund, but based off of community feedback, we learned that only having the fund to open one time a year was challenging for some organizations because maybe they needed funding, but they needed it in the spring or the winter, and they weren't thinking about applying for the funds over the summer. And so working with Paul, we were able to partner with ChangeX to split the funds and have 175 open for one round of funding in the summer and the other 175 open for an additional round of funding starting in January. So what this does is it makes it more accessible for organizations to apply for funding based off of the timing that is more convenient for them. but the program is still the same. It's still a very easy application process, and they get 70% of the funding that they're allocated up front so that they can immediately get to work, and then the reporting piece gets done and they get the last 30%. So it's been something that Paul and I have seen tremendous success for organizations in Morrow County, but we're so excited to kick it off for this year.
Yeah, we've had quite a few here in Boardman, actually, so it's been fun to watch and see those come to fruition. So on that note, AWS and Communities Fund in Eastern Oregon, there's some grant applicants that received the funding here. Can you tell us more about that?
Thanks, Torrie. I'd be happy to share some of the projects that have been successful here recently this last year. One of them was with Boardman Parks and Recreation District. George Scheimer actually reached out and had a great idea to provide some funding for seniors in the community who did not have access to the fitness facility. And so being able to hear from some of the participants in that program who have been able to go and have a membership, it's such a great facility in the Boardman community. We were thrilled to help support that effort. And across Morrow County, there's been projects supporting cooking at the library. South Morrow County Seniors Matter was able to purchase some AV equipment this last year. And so it's really broad, and that's something we didn't want to limit it to one specific initiative. There's good work happening in a number of areas, and so we wanted to make sure that this was accessible and open to any individuals doing good work here.
Yeah, absolutely. So just so we make sure it's clear for everybody, our viewers and stuff like that. So who is eligible and when does it open and how can organizations apply for this? Just to clear this up.
Yep,
one more
great
time.
question. So everyone is eligible.
Okay.
Nonprofits can apply. So if you're a 501c3 nonprofit in Eastern Oregon, you can apply for grants up to $10,000. Or if you're an individual or another entity, you can apply for a grant up to $6,000. It's a really easy application process, and we have folks who can talk through during the ChangeX seminar about how they applied. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to apply. But the other thing I want to flag too is that you may have an idea out there, or you may not have an idea, and you still want to get involved. You're still passionate about serving the community. We have a list on the ChangeX application of some tried and true examples of community projects. So if you really want to do something around biodiversity and helping the environment, we have some examples of how you can apply for funding and plant trees in the community. If you're interested in supporting STEAM education, we have another tried and true replicable example of how you can get involved in that. So don't feel like if you may not have a specific example or a specific project lined up that you can't get involved. The reason why we partner with ChangeX, and they're such a great partner in this work, is they have so many great ideas that you can replicate, and they'll provide what they call the 30-day challenge, where they'll work with you and mentor you to get you through that 30 first days.
Perfect. So this is the ChangeX program. What else have you worked on this last year, and what's coming up in the next few months?
Yeah, so we talked about Grid Alternatives, which is our community solar project, which we'll be able to provide some more details in the coming weeks on. We also, during Sustainability Month and on Arbor Day, launched a new program in Eastern Oregon in partnership with the Boardman Parks and Rec Department, the City of Umatilla, and City of Hermiston. We had 4 tree planting events where we committed over 600 trees to be planted by the end of the year.
How many did we plant here in Boardman over Arbor Day?
Boardman, we planted, well, we had 2 events in Umatilla, one in Boardman and one in Hermiston. We're planning more with Boardman as well. So we planted, I think, about 40, and then we also handed out trees to the schools in Boardman as well for students to plant. And then we brought tons of our AWS employees. We had about 150 employees come out and help support the tree planting. And so you'll see that coming. We actually have another one scheduled for this month where we're going to be planting with the City of Umatilla. So we'll have regularly scheduled tree planting activities as a part of our sustainability programming.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other things that are coming up in the next couple of months?
So we are big supporters of all the local events and engagements that happen here in Eastern Oregon. So we'll be at the Morrow and Umatilla County Fairs. We'll be at the Pendleton Roundup. We try to be very involved and provide opportunities for our employees who live and work in Eastern Oregon to show up and roll their sleeves up and help support. So if there's a community activity that's happening, more than likely our AWS employees will be there.
Wonderful. So I can see you at Harvest Festival?
Yes, I'll be there.
Wonderful. Well, this has been a great discussion, guys. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to learn anything more about AWS and what we discussed today, where could they find some information from you guys?
Torrie, if anybody has additional questions about any of the programs that we talked about today, feel free to have them reach out directly to the Boardman Chamber. Paul and I are happy to connect with anybody who has additional questions, would love to share more information.
Wonderful. Awesome. Love it. Appreciate it. So that being said, thank you guys for sitting here and listening to this Chamber Talk with Torrie. We look forward to bringing you more opportunities to Chamber Talk with Torrie, and be following all of our social media platforms. And you can see this again if you miss it on social media. It's always on the Boardman Chamber YouTube channel. And thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day. And we'll see you next time on Chamber Talk with Torrie.